Today's video is sponsored by Skillshare, and if you're not familiar with them, they're an online learning community with thousands of classes for creative and curious people like ourselves. I don't know about you, but being locked down with the whole pandemic thing has totally got me wanting to expand my knowledge and just sort of learn new things. What is up, my crafty friends? My name is Carrie and I want to welcome you to my channel today. Whether it's your first visit or you're a returning subscriber, I want to say welcome, my friend. Today's video is going to be super fun and it's a little bit new for me. I've never done this sort of painting video before. This is actually only my second time to do this technique and I'm really excited to share with you what I've done. I just finished 2 Skillshare classes on watercolor, and the first one was by Kat Colette, and it's called Modern Watercolor Techniques. This walks you through all of the basics. The second one I took was by Kylie Bennett, and this is Expressive Brush Pen Florals. This takes you through exactly how to properly use the brush pens. Enjoy this video, be sure to give it a big thumbs up because that would mean the world to me. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, consider hitting that subscribe button down below and turn on all those notifications if you don't want to miss anything that I've got coming your way. So I took those classes on Skillshare from Kat Coke and Kylie Bennett. I've been totally wanting to try a watercolor painting. So today we're going to be playing around with the Arteza water brush pens. And these are real brush pens, but y'all, they are super duper cool. I can't wait to jump in and show you how easy it is to create your very own watercolor painting. Even if you are not an artist, if you can't even draw a stick figure, I'm gonna show you a super easy way that you can pull off a professional painting that is gonna totally impress your family and your friends. Y'all, I'm totally loving all the Skillshare classes that I've taken so far, but y'all, there's thousands more out there, whether you're into photography or drawing or painting or just wanna learn more about social media. There's tons of classes, so definitely check that out. The first 1,000 people who click the link in my description will get a free trial of Skillshare Premium. So if you've ever wanted to check out Skillshare, now's your chance. I've also got a discount code for Arteza, so if you want to check out that discount code as well, it'll be in the description box as well. So that's enough talking, y'all. Let's start DIYing. Okay, I'm so excited to show you how easy it was for me to transform this picture that I pulled off of the internet into this gorgeous watercolor painting. Y'all, I'm not even kidding. I even impressed myself with this one. This was my very first time to try any type of watercolor project whatsoever. And no, it's not perfect, but for my very first time, I have to admit I am highly impressed. To pull off this project, I'm going to be using the Arteza 96 Real Brush Pens. These are water-based inks, as well as the Arteza Cold Press double-sided acid-free glue-bound watercolor pad. This is in the Expert series. I admit I have been totally intrigued by these pens for quite some time, so when Arteza asked me to give them a try, I absolutely jumped at the opportunity because I've seen nothing but great reviews about them. So here goes my very own review. So the very first thing I did was to look for my project piece. I knew that I wanted something to do with a truck and I wanted it to be a fall themed. So I just searched on the internet, pumpkin vintage truck, and this is one of the first ones that popped up that I totally loved. Feel free to scour the internet to find your own picture, but if you do want to recreate this exact one, I'll be sure to put a link to the one that I used down in the description box below. So the very first thing I did was to hold this picture up to a bright window. And y'all, I just simply took a mechanical pencil and traced around it. It does not have to be perfect. That's the great thing about watercolor is it's sort of an interpretive sort of art. So you don't have to be super precise with it. You just want to be able to get the outline of it. So I'm going to take one piece of my watercolor pad and center this up. Let's try to get it centered up as much as I can. Okay, so then I'm going to take just a regular number 2 lead pencil, and if you don't trust yourself to do this, you can definitely use some tape and tape it down to your surface. But I'm just going to take my pencil and start rubbing. Before I actually take it up, I'm going to hold one side down and make sure that the entire design transferred. I told y'all this was going to be an easy project. Now, just be aware that your lines will be faint. I know it may be a little hard for the camera to pick up all of the lines, but I can see it perfectly fine. I've gone ahead and picked out all of my colors here, and y'all know me, I'm totally going to make this a turquoise truck because that is totally my color. The first thing that I'm going to start off with is my truck. Now, it is a good idea, if this is your first time to use them, to go ahead and swatch all of your pens. That way you know exactly what your color palette is going to be. Nothing is worse than pulling up and using your pen and you don't love the color. So just be sure that you do know which color that you're going to use. I'm going to be using, for my truck today, I'm going to be using the color Seafoam Green and Turquoise together. Want to have some highlights and some lowlights and some shadows, so that's going to really give me that depth and dimension that I'm looking for. Besides my real brush pens today, I'm going to be using the Arteza water pens, and y'all, these are so cool because your water is inside this pen. You've got 6 different size tips. I'm going to go ahead and open all of these. So you've got the round tips. And you've also got some flat tips. See, there's one of the flat ones. I'm probably not going to be using the bigger ones today, but I will go ahead and take those tops off just so you can see what they look like. Like, that's a nice pen. If I were going to color wash the whole background, this would definitely come in handy, but I'm not going to be using these today, so I'm just going to move them over to the side. Besides my Arteza products, I'm going to be using some Q-tips today just to mop up any excess water, and I've also got a little dish of plain water as well as a little mixing dish. Now, one thing that I learned in the video from Cat Coke on Skillshare is you can take your water-based markers and a little ceramic dish, and you can turn these into liquid colors. How cool is that? And because these are real brush pens, all you've got to do is touch your marker and your pen comes back together. So I will be using, when I'm color washing and I get the lighter color, I will be using the colors like this. So I'm going to go ahead and put some inside my dish. You can also add a little bit of water to that just to water it down even more. So I'm going to set this over here to the side. I'm going to start off first with my turquoise, and I'm just going to very lightly go around the edge. Now, one thing about the watercolor pens, when you're working with them, if you use a lot of water, you're going to get more of that watercolor effect. So if you just want a very light look or a very lightly color washed look, then don't go in very heavy with your pen or with your water. So I just want to outline this at first, and I'll grab one of my watercolor pens, or my water pens rather. And when I use my water pen, I want to try to get off most of the water because I don't want that spitting. So that's why I keep a little bowl of plain water. So I'm just going to pull off some of that water using my hand. You can also use a paper towel. And I'm just going to pull some of that color down. Y'all, this is literally just like coloring in a coloring book. The more water that you use, like I said, you will get more of that watercolor effect. So just be careful, don't go in too much with your water at first. Once it dries, you can definitely go back and add another layer if you want it to be a little bit darker. Once the colors really start to dry down, it's kind of amazing how everything just sort of blends in together. Now, because I've got my colors in my dish, I'm just going to use my dish and add a little bit more of that color. Just be careful and not add too much if you don't want a super watercolored look. Now, you can also do the same thing just directly with your pens, but I just like the way the watercolor pens feel. You want to add, if you want your color to be lighter, you can touch the tip of your pen into the water, and that's going to give it a lighter color. Or if you want it to be darker, all you've got to do is to not dip it in your water. And y'all, this is the same pen, but look at all of the color variations you get just by varying the amount of water that you put into your brush. And feel free to just kind of experiment with both of them together. When I did my first one, that's kind of what I did. Okay, so I still have just a little bit of this watered down color on my brush. So I'll color in this part here. And again, if that's too dark, just simply take your water pen and pull some of that color off. Now, this is still a little bit wet, and I want that dark color back. So I'm just going to dip my little dish here and pull that water off. You can also wet your paper as you're working, like this, and then come back with your pen and paint over that way. Just be aware that if you get too much water, you're going to get some bleeding. So I like to save my dark colors for last. And don't fuss too much about having everything perfect. Like I said before, that's the one thing about using watercolors, is it's really sort of interpretive. You just want to have, you know, the silhouette. You don't have to have everything perfect. And again, if this is darker than you want, just take your water pen and pull that color down. The edges I want to be a little bit darker, and as it goes into the front side of the truck, I want it to be lighter. So that's why I'm putting that water on there. Because the water's going to water the paint down. And y'all, like I said, this is only my second time to even play around with these pens, so I am by no means an expert. I just know what I've played around with myself and what the look that I like. So feel free to do the same. You know, you never know if you're going to be good at something if you don't try it. Y'all, how awesome would it be to make several of these for Christmas presents? I don't know about y'all, but I absolutely love receiving handmade Christmas presents. I can already think of maybe 3 or 4 people so far that I could draw pictures for and paint paintings for, and I know without a doubt that they would totally love them. Totally okay if you have like some white spots in there. You don't have to worry about trying to get everything colored in. I think that's kind of what makes it look neat, when there's just a little bit white showing. Okay, I think I'm pretty happy with the way this looks. Now, I want to take my seafoam green and I just want to hit some of the places that I want to be just a little bit darker. So like the corners, I know I want to be a little bit darker, and this little edge here, I want to be a little bit darker. And I do have quite a bit of water on this, so I am expecting it to bleed. So next I want to move on to my pumpkins. I'm going to grab the orange, and I just want to outline first. And I'm outlining, and I'm also going in on like the highlighted side or the one side. That would be a shadow. Just so that when I start pulling in the water, I'll have some that's a little bit darker. That was pretty easy, huh? So now I'm gonna get my full color back in. I'm just gonna touch it to my dish. And now I've got my full color back. And I want to do the same thing for this big pumpkin here. It's best to not overwork it. You just want to be able to come back and add another layer if you want more intensity. So next I'm going to pick up this honey color, and for this other big pumpkin, I want to add in a little bit of that honey color. I'm not going to pull off my water. I'm just going to use the watered down version that's already in my brush. And I want to make this pumpkin just a little bit lighter. So now I'll add a little bit of water to this honey color. And I'll pull that one through. Now, once everything dries, if you want to take a one of your darker color pens and just outline everything slightly, you can see that's how I did mine. The first one that I did, you can see that's what I did. This one is a little bit softer, and then this one is a little bit more intense. So depending on how much water you use. But you can go back in and add shading if you want to. I'm really loving how this one looks, so I think I want to do the same thing to the other one over here. Actually, no, I changed my mind. Imagine that. I want to do this one a white color. So let me show you how easy it is to pull the color off. So just take your water pen and wet it. And then you can take one of your Q-tips and you can pull your water off. Just be aware if you've got any color beside it, it could possibly run. So just be careful with that. So I changed my mind about this pumpkin here, and I want to make this one a pale peach color. After I get through with this pale peach color, I'm gonna go in and make it look like the little gourds, you know, the gourds that have the green little dots inside of it. That's how I'm gonna make that one look. But I'm gonna totally let that dry because I don't want my colors to bleed too much on that. Okay. So now let me go in with some orange rust. And I just want to highlight a little bit some of these segments. Now, if the definition is what you're going for, just be aware that you need to do that after it's dry, because if not, it's gonna bleed. I think it's looking pretty good. Now I've got one more little pumpkin. Actually, I've got two more little pumpkins here. And I'll do those this same peach color. We'll make sort of some white Cinderella pumpkins. Okay, I think now I want to work on my grill part here. And for that, I'm going to use a couple of different shades of gray. So I've got my ice blue, but to me, it looks sort of gray. And I just want to do the light parts first. So I'll just do a light wash over the whole grill area. And while this is a little bit wet, I'm going to go in with some brown. Actually, this is called Tawny, T-A-W-N-Y. And I just want to make this look like a little rusted bumper. Okay, so now I'm going to take my darker gray, and this one is called Dolphin Gray. Make sure I don't have any water in it because I don't want that to be watered down. And I just want to sort of outline my grill area, just so that it's a little more defined. Okay, and then I'll go back and add a little bit of that darker gray to my step side. So now I want to go back in with my turquoise, and I want to paint the rims or the hubcaps of my little truck here. Okay, next I'm going to go in and paint my leaves. So I'm going to outline this in crocodile green. And I'll take just a little bit of water on my brush. I don't really want my color to bleed, so I'm gonna just dab a little bit of that off on my hand before I start pulling that color through. I'm pretty sure that this little pumpkin here is ready to get its green, so I'll just pick up the pea green. Kind of like this color. And I'm just gonna add in a few little dots, sort of to give it that green, gaudy looking color. And I know it looks a little messy at the moment, but wait until these colors start running together and it's gonna look so pretty. Okay, so I still need to paint the back of my cab here, and I think I want to do that a gray color. So I'll take my ice blue, even though it says it's blue, it totally looks gray to me. And I'm just going to give a light wash to that. Next, I want to go in and paint some of my little stalks. Maybe it's corn stalks. I'm not exactly sure what color or what that is supposed to be, but we're just going to go in with our sunset yellow and just make that corn. Maybe I'll do the same thing here. I do have to go back in and paint the stems of my pumpkin, so I can't forget to do that. Okay, let's do that before I forget. So I'll take my chocolate brown. So next I want to grab the Tony color again. And I'll just want to add a little bit of definition to the sides of this pumpkin. Not much. Next, I'll take my Tony color again, add a little bit of water to it, and just fill in that stem slightly. I don't want those colors to run too much, so I'm going to be super careful with that. And I'll have my Q-tip ready to soak up any water that may be starting to run. So now I'm going to go in with some bumblebee yellow and just hit that corn a little bit. I don't really know what all this is supposed to be, but we're just going to say it's corn. I'm going to go in with a couple of different shades of yellows and oranges just for some dimension. And I forgot that right here is a little gourd. So I need to get that little piece of and I'll make it a bright yellow gourd. Maybe a squash. We'll call this a squash. I will let that dry before I start to, sort of accentuate it. So I want to make sure that it's totally dry before I start messing with it. I'm not loving how the front of my truck is looking here, so I'm going to go back in with some more of my turquoise and just sort of make that just a little bit darker. I think that looks better. Okay, it's looking pretty good. I'm kind of happy with it. So next I want to go in with some sunset yellow, and I want to make this my hay. Next I'll come back with my bumblebee yellow and do the same thing. Okay, I'm going to let that set for just 1 second, and then I'll put a little bit of water on the tip of my bumblebee yellow, and I'll just wash over that little bit right there. So just to sort of blend in all of the colors. So while I'm letting all of this dry, I'm going to go in and I'm going to start doing my tires. And for this, I'm going to use ash black and I'm going to use noir. Now look, I know this tire right here doesn't look that great, but I'm going to show you how easy it is to sort of fake it and make it look so much better. So don't freak out just yet. Okay, so now I want to start working on the dirt part. I'm going to take my chocolate brown and I just want to line the edge here. And then I'll take my brown again. And that's going to make it a lighter color. So now you can just take your water pen and just brush that color around. So I'll take my tawny, I'll take my tawny and I may even put some yellow highlights in it. We'll just see how we go. Okay, so you can see how cool our little pumpkin looks here. So I want to just very lightly define the little segments there. Don't want it to be really, really obvious. Just want it to be a little bit brighter. So I need to go back in and fill in, wash these colors together on my little hay bale. And I'll just put a little bit of water onto the hay bale and just brush it in. Now my hay bale does have the little strings that hold it together. So I'll just put those in here. And there's probably enough water in there that it's going to go ahead and separate. But if I need to, I can always go back and add some more of that. Okay, y'all, it's looking so stinking cute. I'm loving it so far. I do still have some outlining and stuff to do, and I'm going to go ahead and do that with my dolphin gray. So I think my tires are probably dry, so now I want to go back in with my black. And I just want to clean those up a little bit. That looks much better. Okay, I'm feeling pretty good about it, but I've got to go back in and color in that little black bird. Let me find my black. This little black bird is totally gonna make this pop. Because I can never leave anything alone, I want to go back in and add a few more little, maybe some blades of grass to the bottom. My poor little gourd. Okay, y'all, what do we think? I think it turned out pretty stinking cute. Okay, so this was my very first one that I did, and this was my second one. Honestly, I love that they're both just a little bit different. But I can definitely tell in the second one that my skills did improve slightly. So I know the more that I use these pens, the better I'm gonna get. And I'm super excited to play around with these. I'm really excited to take more of the Skillshare classes so that I can really improve on all of those skills. What do you think? I love it. That does it for today's video, y'all. If you enjoyed it, be sure to give it a big thumbs up because that would mean the world to me. And if you want to find out more about Skillshare, be sure to be one of the first 1,000 subscribers who click that link below because you're going to get that free Skillshare premium trial just for clicking it and signing up. So tell me, how did I do? Do you think I did a great job? Or I know it's not perfect, but just for my second time using these pens, I'm highly, highly impressed. I'm a huge fan of these watercolor brush pens, and I cannot wait to play around with them even more. Until next time, happy DIYing, y'all.